Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where normally I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. However, we're on our mid-season break while I record videos for Season 5. So I thought in that time space I'd do a video to tide us over. So I do one of my trash talk videos, haven't done these for like quite a while, but I had an idea for one which I wanted to share with you. So, a little while ago, I made this community post where I said I had an idea for a new potential Magic the Gathering format, which I decided to call Bash. And the essence of it is basically a smaller version of Commander where you have some extra deck building restrictions, but there is some there's a dropping of some limitations in a way, and enough people said they sort of sounded interested in that, so I thought I'd do a whole video where I talk about it, maybe dive down into a bit more, sort of explain my reasons for sort of like coming up with it, and the kind of the format rules and stuff. So yeah, thought we'd just do that to as a little between season video. So let's talk about Bash. So I like the idea of Commander. The fact that you have like a singleton deck, which leads to high variance in gameplay, which can be exciting, and you have a face for the deck. It's very individually, it's very yours. Like you choose a commander, and you have a whole deck based around that commander. I like the idea of it, but in execution, I'm not a fan because I don't tend to like how long the game can go on. 100-card deck. There's some kind of like cookie cutter to deck construction. Like there's a lot of staples you need to have. There can be wildly different kind of power levels, at the table, that kind of thing. And there's also some other like kind of rules and restrictions I don't really like. For example, like commander damage, I think that's incredibly fiddly as a rule. So I've said it before, but I really like Brawl as a format because this to me is like all the best bits of Commander without the faff. So it's like 60 cards. So it's a much smaller deck, so fewer deck building decisions to make, which is fantastic for me personally, and I'm sure other people, instead of having to make like 70 decisions for cards, you only have to make like 40. It doesn't use commander damage. Instead, you just have 30 life, I believe. So yeah, it's like a commander experience, but in a sort of a quicker, simpler format. The only problem with Brawl is specifically tied to set rotation, which I think is a huge mistake and why it didn't take off. Because the whole appeal of Commander is that you can use any card, ban list notwithstanding. So it's a lot easier for a casual player to get into. They can just get like a pile of cards from kind of all over all over Magic's history and throw it into a deck and be like, well, that's my commander deck. Whereas Brawl was tied specifically to set rotation, which I think was a massive downside of it. If you've been on this channel for a while, you may have noticed that I quite like talking about these pre-constructed decks. In fact, that's that's the whole purpose of this channel, is these pre-constructed decks. And I like these. I wouldn't be doing a project where I'm reviewing every single one if I didn't like them. I like the feel of them because they are definitely made in a certain way. You have a certain number of commons, certain number of uncommons, and a certain number of rares. So which means like obviously there are some decks which are going to be better than others, but it means that if you played two against each other, they should be kind of balanced, and I like that kind of feeling as well. To sort of settle this, maybe power disparity, like that might exist between say commander decks. And I also really like sealed and draft. That's like one of my favorite ways to play is just to open a bunch of packs and make a deck out of like what you get. And I know they've done Commander Masters. They've done essentially like a draft version of Commander, which I think is interesting. But yeah, in general, I do like this kind of Commander feel. Like you might open stuff up and like not get any rares. You might get a complete bomb, but you've got to kind of make something work out of what you've opened. So really, my ideal version of a sort of like a commander-esque format is sort of a combination of the three of these, kind of a smaller deck size, maybe like limited selection to rares, kind of like pauper or something where you can only use cards of a certain rarity, and this kind of junky feel of it that you might get from putting a draft sealed deck together. So that is why I came up with the idea for Bash, and let's talk about the format rules. So first rule is you have a 41 card deck, it's singleton, and we'll just say like everything that's legal in Commander is legal here. So that immediately right off the bat, 41 card deck, so it's a much smaller deck. So you get to see more of your cards basically. This is important. So one creature in your deck. So you have a 41 card deck. You have to have at least one creature. And one creature is your bash buddy, and this is like the commander equivalent essentially. So the bash buddy has a few sort of rules attached to it. So let's talk about that. So it is important to say any creature can be your bash buddy. So if you want to have Elvish Mystic as your bash buddy to have like a guaranteed turn 1 mana dork, you can do that. If you want to have a say Death Priest and Merkle, like if you want to do like a tribal deck and there's not like a legendary creature that supports that tribe, you can do that. If you just want to have like a big flashy like rare creature, kind of like the foil face ray you get in the precons, you can do that. So you have like Shivan Dragon, and it's just there ready for you to play. If you're a complete degenerate and want to have Silver Coat Line, you can do that if you want to give me heart palpitations. But also if you want to just have like a more traditional legendary creature as your bash buddy, you can absolutely do that as well. The point is like any creature can be your bash buddy, with some exceptions when we get into like when I talk about the ban list. So originally I was thinking with the bash buddy, it will behave like a commander. It will sit in the command zone and you can play it, and it dies, you pay the command attacks, and you can just essentially replay it over the game. But I really actually like the idea of not companions themselves, because we all know like companions are kind of like a bit broken. But I really like the idea of companions in that they start the game kind of outside the deck, not technically in the command zone, just out, like essentially in like your sideboard. And you can cast them, or before they were nerfed, where you have to like now pay 3 to get them into your hand. The original is like you can cast it once from outside the game from from your sideboard, if you meet the requirements, whatever. So essentially, your bash buddy is like a companion. It starts outside the game. And I thought, again, it could be like commander, like if it dies, it goes back and you replay it. But I really liked this suggestion here from one of from one of the subscribers, that the idea of the bash buddy or bash boss, which was like a working name, being more of a companion commander, but it's single use, which makes it more in line with limited, but allows for more strategic play from both players. So essentially, your bash buddy sits outside the game, like in a sideboard, or like if you want to call it like the buddy zone or something. And you can cast it from there once per game, as if it was in your hand. And once it's hit the table, then it's exactly like any other creature. It's vulnerable, so if it dies, it goes to the graveyard. It can be exiled. It can be bounced back to your hand. So it's essentially that you get one. It's essentially like it's always in your hand, and you always have access to it. But it is more vulnerable than a commander normally is. So going on to that kind of thing, what I was saying about like command zone and stuff. So for Bash, anything that references any rules text that says like commander or command zone or color identity basically means nothing. They're not used in this format. So for example, if you got a card like the Dragon, it has the ability, the Eminence ability, which is like if it's in your command zone, it has this ability. Doesn't apply here. You don't have a command zone in Bash, so this you can take the Dragon like as your Bash buddy, or you can take it in your deck or whatever. But if it doesn't have the Eminence ability, because in this format you do not have a command zone. Same with that might interact weirdly with emblems, I suppose. Whatever, we'll come to it. This is still quite rough, I suppose. It might need finessing. So if you have like creatures with partner, like a Kiri here, where it says you can have 2 commanders both have partner, that doesn't mean you can have 2 bash buddies if they have partner. Bash buddies aren't commanders, so you can't have two that have partner. So you have 1 bash buddy at most. Again, you can still take these cards like in your deck, but you get no benefit to them being say your buddy. You can't double up on them, and stuff like Bastion Protector, where it gives like commander creatures get +2/+2 and have indestructible. Your bash buddy is not a commander. It gets no benefit from this. Again, you could take this in your deck, and it's essentially then just a 3/3 vanilla, because it's not doing anything. You don't have anything that meets like the commander criteria, because we're not doing commander, we're bash buddies, and our bash is smaller than a game commander, so there's not much to command. We're essentially just having a punch up in the street. That's the equivalent of what bash is. And what I said about color identity as well, that doesn't apply here as well. So your bash buddy can be sort of any color, and that doesn't impact how you build your deck. So, as an example, you could have Lord of the Undead as your bash buddy, and if you want to do rainbow zombies and have all these different colored cards in your deck that care about zombies, you can absolutely do that. You're not locked in by color identity at all. So that just leaves a bit more sort of like freedom for deck building. You can do kind of what you want in terms of like, yeah, you can have Lord of the Undead, and say if you want to splash out and have the Amonkhet zombies or like the Innistrad zombies, you can absolutely do that. It doesn't break color identity rules or anything, which does mean also like cards like any card that references color identity, it does nothing because you don't have a commander with a color identity. You have a bash buddy who doesn't technically have a color identity that affects deck building. And I think the real benefit of this, like, not tying things to color identity, is that if you want to switch your bash buddy, if you want to switch like the face of your deck, you don't have to like necessarily completely restructure the deck. Like you could just, have like one creature out as your bash buddy, and you've got another creature in the deck, and it's like you play a game and it's like it's not working. You can just switch them over. You don't have to like restructure the deck. Like if like say like in a normal commander deck or like a brawl deck, if you're like playing like I don't know like a 3-color deck and you had a 3-color commander and like, oh, it's not really working, but I really do like this like mono blue creature, like you wouldn't be able to switch them out because you have to completely restructure the deck because now your commander has a different color identity which completely changes the deck. And yeah, so this way it's just a lot less hassle to kind of switch things around and experiment, which I think is an upside. So that's all the stuff about the Bash Buddy. I'm sure I've probably not covered something. So really would like feedback and questions about this format. I would really like to finesse it and kind of make it into something I think that could be pretty good. So the last rule is, and I think this is the big one, your deck can contain only a total of 3 rares and/or mythic rares. So this is the big thing, and this is going back to like intro packs and sealed, because like if you play sealed, you open 6 packs, you're going to open, say, provide disregarding like kind of like rare pools and stuff, or like really like a stacked pack, like 6 rares and or mythic rares, and they might not all be in your colors, and you might only have to have like 2 or 3 like in your sealed deck you built. And the same with intro packs, they only came with they come with 2 rares and stuff, so but they feel a bit more special because you only have like a few in there. And so yeah, and this I think also goes away towards fixing kind of like disparity, making like the format feel like a bit more casual and stuff. So the way the rarity works, I think it's easiest to say kind of go with the pauper kind of rulings and stuff. So where you take the lowest rarity of cards been printed at. So for example, Palaka Worm, its recent printings have been it's been at rare, but it was originally printed at uncommon, so it wouldn't count towards one of the rares you're allowed in your deck. So there you go. There's a quick tick. There we go. Take Palaka Worm in your deck if you want to. It doesn't count. So yeah, just be sure to like check the rarities of cards that have maybe been like downshifted over the years or whatever. Yeah, if it was me, I would try and play the version of the card that is at like a lower rarity, so just so there's no confusion or whatever. But I'm a big believer of like restrictions breed creativity, right? So, like for example, in a normal command deck, you might take Birds of Paradise as a man dork, and why wouldn't you? It's very good. But in a bash deck where you're only allowed to have 3 rares, are you going to use one of your rare slots on Birds of Paradise? Like maybe not. You might have to do a sort of like a lower rare alternative, like Ornithopter Paradise or Alloymer, to get kind of the same effect, but at a say at a lower rarity. You got to kind of improvise a little bit and kind of experiment and look around the card pool and see what you can kind of cobble together. And the same thing as well goes for like mana base as well. So like you can absolutely do like your dual lands if you want to, like your rare like shock lands or fetch lands, anything like that. You can have that in your mana base, absolutely. But again, are you going to spend your limited rare slots to do that? I say you absolutely can if you want. The option is there. But if you don't want to, if you just want to have like big flashy spells or creatures or whatever, that's valid as well. And also, you're only playing like a 41 card deck. Like like mana fixing is, I don't think, going to be as important. Just because it's a smaller deck. You don't need to be as tutoring as much, or maybe. But the option is there if you do have these dual lands. But if you want to use like a more budget version, like I personally would. or you want to use your rare slots for something else, you'll have to do that. So the the fact that like you don't have to like splash out on a rare mana base, I think makes it a bit more approachable and cheaper as a format as well, which I think is good. It means that people can sort of dip in and maybe not spend a lot and kind of play around with it and see what they think. So yeah, there we go. But other than that, other than those rules, it plays like a normal game of Magic. So like 20 life, maybe 30 if you're playing like 4 player or something. No commander damage used. Draw 7 at the start. Let's say a free mulligan as well because it's like a really casual format. Yeah, apart from that, you just play as normal, like a normal game of Magic. Like all the normal rules apply. But when we talk about formats, we obviously got to talk about like potential ban lists as well. I think the easy thing to say is just like what's on the commander ban list, and a few others, which I thought would be fitting given like the format, like the deck sizes and that kind of thing. So I thought Thassa's Oracle, just because you're playing with a smaller deck, I feel like this would be too easy to hit its ability for the automatic win. So let's just say that's maybe on the ban list. I'm very suspicious of it. Um, the companions, not specifically just Lurus of the Dream Den. This is kind of a stand-in for all the companions. I'll talk about it a little bit more in the next slide, where I talk about another sort of like potential stuff for the ban list that I'm considering. But like I feel like it goes against the feel of it, like because you still have companions, they're still outside the game, you can still pay the extra to get them to your hand. It does feel like having an extra bash buddy, which I feel like goes against the feel of the format. And also, you've got a small deck, it's easier to hit their companion requirements as well. So I think it's just easier to say the companions are on the ban list as well. Or you can have them like maybe in the main deck, but you can't have them off to one side. You can't use their companion ability. Maybe that's a good in between. And Rhystic Study, just because it's a super good card. And also I know it's rare here, this symbol, but it was originally printed at common, and it's just going to show up, and like people are fed up with it. There's basically no downside to putting it in any deck that runs blue. So yeah, Rhystic Study is so frustrating as well to play against, and yeah. So just note Rhystic Study. Everyone is fed up of Rhystic Study. And then a potential ban list. So I was thinking creatures with Cascade being your bash buddy, because I feel like if you've got a guaranteed Cascade off to one side, I think it's too easy to then kind of like play around with your deck in a way that would abuse it. So you could have like those the 0-cost suspend cards from Time Spire and something, or just just a bunch of like cheaper spells or whatever. And if you got a guaranteed Cascade, then I think I just think it's too easy to set up. So not necessarily saying Cascade cards with Cascade are banned. I just think creature cards with Cascade being your bash buddy is maybe a no. Again, probably like the companions, they can be in the main deck, but like not off in your buddy zone. And also, like I was thinking, any cards that let you get stuff from your sideboard or outside the game, like Burning Wish, like any of the Wish cards. Again, because I just feel like that would go against the feel of the format. Like I feel like it should just be your 41 card deck, and like not supplementing it with stuff outside the game as well. It's a casual format anyway, so technically you wouldn't have a sideboard, and like no one you don't want to play against that guy who like plays like Burning Wish and then starts like rifling through like a shoebox of cards. So I think it's just maybe easy to say anything that lets you play stuff from outside the game is probably banned as well, again just to maintain the feel of it. It was just a small deck and you've just kind of got what you've got. You can't toolbox in other stuff. So yeah, that was it. That's the rules of Bash, which is, I say, the little format I came up with. If you got any thoughts or comments or opinions about this format, like or any feedback, like please stick a comment below. I would love to hear what people's feedback is. If this can be like finessed or improved in any way. If you want to like share this, if you want to be an ambassador for Bash, an ambassador. There we go. Let's coin that as the as someone who spreads this format. If you want to I don't know, stick an idea for a bash deck below in the comments or whatever. I would really like to hear what people's thoughts are on this. I do like coming up with rules and stuff. So I do really like getting feedback on my ideas, and whether you think this is a good idea or a bad idea, or if you'd be interested in like playing this format and like putting a deck together, and like what creature have you always kind of wanted to build a deck around that's like not a legendary creature. I'd love to hear some interesting Bash Buddy suggestions. Yeah, that'd be great. But yeah, so that was Bash. I'm going to go back to recording season 5 videos, and that will be starting up in September. So until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have a fantastic day. And go and bash people. Don't really do that though. That's not allowed. Don't do that. All right, bye.